the present moment, with a very sad record of persecuting members of the press. Hopewell is a member of the press. He is the member of the fourth estate. We are expecting every legitimate authority to respect his duty to carry out his profession as determined by the ethics of the profession. So we are scared that if members of the fourth estate are now arrested for bringing out their own personal views, this country is going down the drain. He is currently facing before the regime. He is one man whom I shared the same prison cells with at Sikhala maximum prison. He has immeasurable love for this country. He has no any political ambition. He has no any other issue that he needs but to take government accountable for each and every action that take place in our country. We don't expect a society where civil liberties and civil rights in our country become victim of a government that does not accept itself to be criticized. Fundamental human rights are the cornerstone of every democratic society. Zimbabwe cannot continue on the path of dictatorship and authoritarianism, the way how things are being run in our country at the present moment. We have come here to tell you that we are asking even the international community, the regional members of our state, that there is truly a crisis in our country. A crisis of persecuting those people who hold contrary views to the current government. That there is unprecedented abduction, torture, and human rights abuses in our country. There is no country in Africa which has a crisis more than Zimbabwe. So we call upon SADC to make sure that this crisis in our country do not escalate into a full-fledged conflict. And we must all play our role as responsible citizens, that we are not going to see our country degenerating into a full-fledged conflict. We also call upon the United Nations in terms of Chapter 7 of the United Nations Charter, specifically Article 42 and 43, that allows the United Nations Security Council to pass resolutions concerning those states with a humanitarian crisis. Ours is a humanitarian crisis. It involves the breach of international crimes such as abduction, torture, and crimes against humanity. The United Nations must be able to exercise, the United Nations Security Council must be able to exercise its powers as provided for in Chapter 7, Article 42 and 43, to sit down and pass a resolution that the crisis in Zimbabwe cannot be continued to escalate the way it is escalating, because it is a threat to stability in our country that can spill over into the region. So the Security Council will call upon itself to quickly sit down and put Zimbabwe on its agenda and mitigate over issues of human rights abuses that have been taken place in our country and that has reached unprecedented level. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, the members of the fourth estate. I will now leave and give it over to my colleague, Honorable Jacob Ngarivhume, to also address you. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I will speak on issues that have not been raised by Honorable Sikhala. And we are speaking to you as leaders of the 31st protest, which is a civil rights movement basically fighting for people's rights, civil liberties and civil rights. It's very important for you to understand that. We condemn the arrest of Hopewell. They are not meant for human habitation. And already the crime that he's accused for has been alluded to by my colleague here. But what I want to say is, as citizens in this country, we are fully aware that we need to stand up to fight for citizens' rights. We have been speaking against corruption. And what government in the world would criminalize citizens who speak out against corruption? Recently, the president talked of 3.5 billion that has gone missing, that has gone between the walls from command agriculture. Nothing has been done. And if as citizens we keep quiet, we don't speak out, what happens? Mugabe unearthed 15 billion that was stolen from diamonds in Chiazwa. What has been done about it? Nothing. From NASA, 900 million was stolen. What has happened? Nothing. 60 million was stolen from drugs. A few people were arrested because there was an outcry from citizens. But after the arrest, what has happened? Nothing. They could not even recover 60 million which has been recently stolen. At least it should have been possible to recover 60 million and bring it back into the fiscus. But nothing has been done. Instead, look at the state of our nation. The broken down infrastructure, hospitals completely incapacitated. You know, the education sector in shambles. School children are supposed to have opened, but there are no lessons. What is the situation? And as citizens, when we speak about these things, it's important for the government not to take us to be enemies.
Let us answer so that we don't forget your question. The stupidity of every government that does not drive legitimacy from the government is for them to put in place stupid laws. The Patriotic Act is not, it will be one of those laws that will be just like the Public Order and Security Act and also the AIPA. Those were laws that were in our country for a decade and more and months. But at no any particular time did it ever get any effect. Zimbabwe, like what my colleague Ngarivhume said, is one of those countries in a global village. Zimbabwe is no longer living in isolation. Zimbabwe, the world is now one village. For somebody to try to create a stupid law to silence, you know, the right of association of whom you want to be your friend or not, will never be succeed in our country. Secondly, we are here for the arrest of our colleague Hopewell. If it is your first time to hear about the 31st July movement, it means you are far much behind other Zimbabweans.
Not the citizens, but the civic society.
The citizens of Zimbabwe all know about the 1st July movement, and as one of those convergence platforms where our people are putting their heads together from various constituencies to make sure that they speak out about issues that affect them in their country of birth. So specifically, it's not the 1st July movement is a movement that is already in motion. And I'm sorry if you are behind, my brother. This thing has moved miles and all over the world.
You probably missed the question, but I understand you understand the question.
I was going to say, you know, I will only answer the first part, you know, in terms of the civil rights movement that is being embedded. I think from the time we called for the 31st of July protests, I think what has happened is that the people of Zimbabwe have converged on that platform and on that call to action to speak out against corruption. And indeed, it is really the first time that a platform that has consistently been established to address the issue of corruption has been emerging. And it's quite important that this is an emerging movement, and it's an emerging civil rights movement, and it's an emerging platform where the people of Zimbabwe are coming to converge on. And it was basically birthed when we called for the July 31st protests against corruption in this country. And so this is an ongoing process that the people of Zimbabwe are seizing and expressing themselves to move the nation forward. That's precisely what is happening. I think you can move on to take the next question.
Yeah, so I think we have other two questions. We have them at this moment. I saw a hand there. you were raising
Yes.
initially, yes. Yeah.
Okay, my question is, as 31st movement, what action are you going to take right now over the arrest of Chimono? Are you going to protest or something?
We are going to give the judiciary an opportunity to see the measures that they're going to take. If we are going to see that the persecution will persist, obviously you should expect us to also act. We cannot really allow one of us to be persecuted on our watch. Gone are the time when an authoritarian regime would do whatever they want about, on the citizens they purport to govern. We will never allow this government to do whatever they want on Hopewell Shimono. We are going to closely watch the developments, and if we are going to do any next action, we are going to make it public and pronounced to you. But we are going to give the judiciary an opportunity. It's going to appear in court tomorrow. We are going to be there in our hundreds to go and give one of us solidarity, and we will see how the proceedings will take place from tomorrow onwards, and then we will take action as and when it calls upon ourselves to act if we see that there is a total abuse of the law specifically on this case.
And if I may add on to say, you know, the action that we take is never coming from us as individuals, but is informed by what the citizens feel needs to be done appropriately with each matter. And I think the citizens have every reason and every right to want to see a situation whereby when citizens speak out against corruption, they are not persecuted. Because if we don't do something about it, it is not good as citizens. And so the people are really going to decide, and we are just leaders who facilitate the decisions of the people of Zimbabwe. If they feel that as a next step, we need to do something to get into the streets, we are ready to do that. And of course, every time we do whatever the people ask us to do, we do so peacefully. We can converge peaceful protests if the people so wish and realize that there is need for us to do that. Yes, we'll be ready to do that if the people call for it.
Okay. No,
I just want to know whether you are optimistic that SADC is going to take a positive arbitration in intervention, because it looks like they are just coming from the same Pan-African path, and normally SADC isn't given in action to Zimbabwe according to some of the issues that have happened, like the political ferments and violations that have been taking place all over the years. SADC hasn't taken action. Even
but if you realize the world's view about Zimbabwe at the present moment, whether they are fooling themselves or not, this regime has no influence any longer. The world is now aware of the way how the citizens of our country have been abused. Of recent past, you noticed the serious developments. For the first time, South Africa speaking that Zimbabwe is a crisis. And our understanding for a long period is that even when Zimbabwe was at the peak of its crisis in 2008, President Thabo came to Zimbabwe and said there is no crisis in Zimbabwe. But today you could see the convergence of the South African government via their Minister of Foreign Affairs, Naledi Pandor, speaking clearly that there is a crisis in Zimbabwe and it needs attendance of all countries in the region. You have also seen the ANC at a party level, via their Secretary for International Relations, Lindiwe Zulu, speaking clearly that there is a crisis in Zimbabwe. It has never happened. The African Union writing a memo that the Zimbabwean government must stop the abuse of its citizens, that there must be respect of the rule of law. They must not use COVID as an excuse for them to oppress the civil liberties of our people. So specifically, you know, the world of today is no longer the world to pander to the whims of dictatorships, where citizens of the government are not able to speak out their mind. So we have got total and absolute faith that truly inside they will speak out. You saw how the Zimbabwe Lives Matter went viral during the period of escalating the 31st of July protests. So we expect more. That is coming. We believe in good faith that SADC, not only SADC but Africa and the world, shall speak against the excesses of the current regime. I thank you. I think my colleague can shed more.
And to us, really, it's not only about SADC speaking out, it's about us as Zimbabweans speaking out. It's also very important. Whilst, of course, we expect that support in the weighing in of SADC, but as Zimbabweans, what are we doing about our situations? Clearly, the ball is in our court, and it's really up to us to make sure that we move the nation in a manner that we are happy and proud of. So, yeah, I mean, we know recently that the ANC delegation was here and they promised to speak back to us. We are taking them to task concerning that, but we are never going to wait on SADC or the international community or Africa only. We feel that it is up to us as Zimbabweans to move this nation and initiative forward.
Okay, any other question? Okay, I take note of him. Do we have any other who we ask him to go ahead? Sorry. I think I'm being disturbed. Okay, my sister, you can go ahead.
Okay, my question is, maybe it's already been answered partly, but I wanted to find out, this press conference, is it about Hopewell in particular, because you guys managed to share the cell with him, because I understand there have been arrests of, Terence has already made enough noise, there have been other arrests of citizens that spoke out, the likes of Prince Gora, Yangason Matete, although they have been released. It's now at a point where, even though, as you say, Zimbabweans must speak out, speaking out has been criminalized. What then happens when it comes to a situation like that in Zimbabwe?
Okay.
Criminalization of speaking out. Is that your question?
Yes.
The criminalization of speaking out. We will never allow the government to stampede of our rights. The right of expression is at the core of every democratic society. Never will we allow this government to take away the rights that are God-given. The right for everyone to express himself or himself over the way how state of affairs are being governed in their country is a fundamental right protected even by the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. Never shall we allow our country to be governed by those people who do not want their citizens to question their actions. We shall continue to question those things that we think the government must be held accountable. And we will never stop speaking when it comes to issues that concern the fundamental rights of our citizens.
And you see, you have already pointed out people who have been arrested either for speaking out, and clearly the government here is trying to criminalize speaking out. But our response is then to show that we will not allow a situation whereby government trembles on people's rights and we keep quiet. So yes, all those people have been arrested. We also have been arrested. But we continue to speak out because that is the right thing. And mind you, from sections, I think 58, from sections 57 through to section 62 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe speaks of these different rights that as citizens we have. But now they want specifically to speak against that which is guaranteed by the Constitution of Zimbabwe. And we will not allow that. We are not prepared to give up our rights because of selfish interests by the government. No, we will not. The people of Zimbabwe will continue to speak out because it's squarely in our freedoms as enshrined in our Constitution and also in international law. In this modern era, the 21st century, you would not find a state that criminalizes citizens speaking out. You only find it in Zimbabwe and maybe North Korea and a few other dictatorships across the world. This is unacceptable. And for us as citizens, we say we can't keep quiet about that. We need to continue to show defiance when it comes to criminalization of people and citizens speaking out. We will speak the language of defiance defiance and more defiance, because that's contrary to the spirit of the law of the nation of Zimbabwe.
Okay, I hope you are answered. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Leo Mlende from newzimbabwe.com. The current regime has arrested, tortured, killed at some points since maybe 2017 right up to now. We have had press conferences with members of civic society, human rights defenders, journalists sometimes, politicians, mainly from the opposition parties, calling out government. They have called out SADC, the AU, and those have also added their voice, but nothing has changed. Do you think ZANU-PF is concerned? Do you think it is worried? Do you think it takes note of these kind of press conferences?
Advocates against evil is not untable. The civic society, the civil rights movement in the United States of America had to take place since the obtainance of its independence in 1786 until 1964, when Martin Luther King and others had to triumph at the end of the day. As citizens will never stop speaking and advocating for the rights of our citizens. Better to speak out than dying quietly. It's better that you die being known what you believe in, rather than being killed in silence. We will never allow this country to kill us in silence. We'll continue speaking and advocating for fundamental human rights of our people. Until that period, we will triumph. There is nothing that will never come to an end. This regime, I promise, calendarize it today, will be out of power. Whether you like it or not, whether they like it or not, with their immense military arsenal, they will be out of power. And this, I promise, freedom is coming.
No, you said, is it, do you think ZANU-PF listens or ZANU-PF cares? You see, my response to that would be, if they don't care, it gives us the more reason to continue to speak. Because that they should, by law and otherwise, they should care, they should listen, and they should change and transform. But if they are not doing that, it gives us the more reason then to continue to speak out and continue to fight for the rights and freedoms of the people of Zimbabwe. Because that is our duty and obligations as citizens. And that is also precisely, the foundation on which this movement is based. We are saying, let us fight for people's right to life, people's rights to freedom of expression, people's rights to access to health and education, which rights are completely decimated under the current regime and the system that we have. And the people then can't say, because they are not listening, we are going to keep quiet. Never. We will not do that. If they are not listening, we are going to continue to speak. And we change strategy now and again. Yeah. This is completely a change of strategy and focus in terms of how we're doing it. And look at it. Now this is the birthing of a national convergence platform where everybody is speaking out. Remember, after the 31st protest, people from ZANU-PF were fired for supporting the initiative. Because these are citizens within ZANU-PF who said, this is not right. We need to make sure that the people's freedoms and rights are respected. And this is a completely new strategy that we are birthing and introducing to this nation to make sure that we come together based on issues, not based on political affiliation, not based on tribal identity, not based on all these things that tend to divide us, but rather let us unite around issues. And the people of Zimbabwe are responding and taking that message very well.
Thank you. Any further questions? I think
thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
To say, for how long do we tolerate a situation whereby if citizens speak out and express themselves, they are arrested? And this is why now the people need to decide. We are leaders and we only act based on what the people say and instruct us people. If they feel we need to get into the streets and peacefully protest, we are ready to lead such protests. And the people are speaking out. As earlier on we've said, we are saying, fine, we give him the judiciary an opportunity tomorrow. He's appearing in court. Let's hear out what they are saying. If there is need for people to take action concerning this matter, we are ready to do so because this is within our rights as citizens.
Mr. Sikhala, just a quick one. What would the problem now?
How do you view this arrest?
No, this is purely political persecution, as we earlier indicated. We are under siege from a regime that does not accept criticism from its own citizens. We hope Hopewell is not committed any crime. It's just speaking out and trying to hold the government accountable to issues of public affairs. The issues of public affairs are fundamentally reporting to every citizen of this country that our country must be properly governed. It must have people who should know that they cannot do whatever they want with issues of public affairs. Public affairs concerns each and every citizen, and we have got every right for us to question the way how we are being governed in our country.
There are people are saying, for example, Hopewell has overstepped his mandate, both as journalist and as citizen. He's now undermining institution of judiciary. How do you respond to that?
You should never at any particular point being persuaded by those people who want to be criticized. Like what I earlier indicated, there is no any arm of government that is immune from citizen scrutiny. Scrutinizing the way how the three arms of government are being run in our country is within the reach of the citizens. You have to understand that the judiciary does not fund itself. It is being funded from the public base through our own money. So as citizens, we are also responsible not to allow the tiling of the judiciary, where the judiciary becomes so sacrosanct that some of its decision and behavior and conduct is beyond human question. So it is within the ambit both at law and also in terms of the jurisprudence of law that citizens, as the people who are served by that judiciary, have the right to question its conduct and some of its decisions.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.